Welcome, Anime Loungers, to another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Lance, and I am here with my other host, Matt. Today we have a guest host, and his name is Alec.
Hello, everyone.
Alec is another super nerd who happens to be in my family line. Alec, how about you introduce yourself to our guests by letting us know what got you into anime and perhaps your top 3 favorite anime?
Sure, yeah. So what got me into anime was probably, I must have been around 8 or 9 years old. My older brother introduced me to Toonami, and I got hooked instantly. My favorite were Zoids, Yu Yu Hakusho, Dragon Ball Z, and Gundam. Really, I think the Wing Zero series was what really got me in. As far as my top 3 animes, call me a little basic, but I like the classics. I go for Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, and Sword Art Online. Are probably my top 3 go-tos. I can rewatch those every single year and never lose track.
Man, Zoids. I haven't watched Zoids in years.
Mm-hmm. I still have it on VHS. I have 2 seasons on VHS.
Oh,
I'm like, Mom, you can never get rid of these.
Yeah, let's just date ourselves a little bit here. VHS. That's funny. Like, at least we have another mech fan on our side, because... Yep. Personally, I never got too involved in the mech, but not that I disliked it to begin with, because there's a couple anime that I truly enjoyed that had mech aspects, but Zoids, obviously, pure mech.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome. Well, great to have you here with us today, Alec. So before we get any further, let's introduce our adult beverages of choice. Today, I will be drinking the Glenfiddich 12-year, and I will be chasing that down with a Wisconsin Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy. Matt, what are you drinking?
Today, I'm going to be drinking a Dewar's Age 12-year, and then I will be having my typical Nuclearis Spotted Cow. Alec, what about you?
Today, I'm drinking the Suntory Whiskey Toki, and chasing that down with a Summer Shandy as well.
Lance, before we get started, can you give us a synopsis about this season 1 of Rising of the Shield Hero?
Right. In this series, we follow our main character, Naofumi, who gets isekai'd into a book, and we get to see his struggles to prove his worth after getting screwed over by the kingdom that he is summoned into. There is 3 other heroes that get summoned, a spear, a bow, and a sword. You would imagine that they are all pretty badass, and, they have their moments. But they're also assholes to begin with. They're all major assholes. Anyway, our hero learns how to fend for himself and progresses further than all of these other heroes, which is kind of strange. But Naofumi gets this awesome team that gets to follow along with him that takes care of the attacking aspects, and we get to learn how Naofumi rises above the rest of the heroes. And shit goes wrong, obviously, and we get to learn from there. And that's as far as I'm going to go with the synopsis. Suck at him. And before we get any much further, let's just get into Lance's lessons. Today's Lance's lessons is going to be the Japanese word for catastrophe. That is Dai Sanji. That is D-A-I-S-A-N-J-I. Dai Sanji. Which is fitting for this episode because each wave is called the wave of catastrophe, and wave of catastrophes are what is causing the world to suffer to begin with, which is why the heroes are summoned. So, Matt, do we have any favorite characters that we would like to talk about?
Man, so I would say my favorite character, I'm kind of going to go chalk here and just go with Naofumi, because he has the most to deal with. He has the biggest struggles and the greatest leaps and bounds compared to what he started off with, because, he got completely screwed over when he gets isekai'd into his new world and has to work from absolutely nothing. And like you had said, he rises above all the asshole heroes who are, I will say, completely useless. They're completely useless.
For the most part, yeah.
And so he acts as if he is this big asshole, but in reality, he's not. He goes around helping all these people, goes around cleaning up after all the messes the other heroes create. And yes, he tries to play that persona of being a bad guy, but you can tell he's not.
Right. I mean, just to begin with, he's the one that had to suffer the most, and he's the one that had to learn the fastest. So, essentially, he's mature matured way beyond the other heroes, who in general all came on their high horse because they all thought they knew how to handle this world based off of these fake ass video games that they thought that they were playing.
Yeah, they were acting as if it was a video game, just killing a dragon and then the body will disappear on its own. We don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily. Well, what was that? The bow hero that killed the dragon, or
the sword hero did?
The sword hero. Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yep,
the sword hero killed the dragon. Yeah, and in a video game, you would imagine that would just disintegrate and mission done. But not only is this not exactly a video game, there's also real life aspects that this thing still needs to die and
decompose.
Exactly, it needs to decompose in some form, and it's gonna destroy the village that below it. And I thought that was an amazing aspect of this.
Yeah, they made it real life aspects into the anime while still making it pseudo game like. So it was really good. Alec, what about you? Who's your favorite character?
My favorite was probably Ren, the sword hero, because he thought the most critically out of everyone. He didn't just kind of take everything at face value like Matsuya did, where you tell him the sky is green, and he's like, "Oh wow, it is. It's a beautiful shade of green there." Not even looking up. Whereas Ren, he was given a lot of chances of, hey, this is what happened. He's like, this might have actually happened. Let me look into that. And he would kind of decide for himself and think for himself. Also, in all the training scenes, you kind of see him with all of his interesting swordplay. And the spear hero is just jabbing at things. The bow does what a bow does. They shoot things. It's kind of no figure. But with Ren's training scenes, he's actually you're seeing his sword play. You're seeing his sword movement. And he's actually forming skills and techniques, whereas everyone else is just kind of using basic attack patterns.
One thing I will say is every fight scene where you see them, they all use the same attack.
Meteor strike!
Everybody at all the same time. Everyone uses either lightning, everyone uses meteor, and that was probably the top two. There might have been a third
there was
one.
A thunder strike, a lightning strike, and a meteor strike, and you could tell that they went in phases.
Yeah.
They
all went in unison, basically.
Like in Kingdom Hearts, there's fire, Fire-Raga Blast, or whatever, and it seemed like Meteor Blast was that video, I'm doing air quotes right now for everyone.
Yep.
It's like this is the highest level spell or highest level skill, and they have to say it kind of like a Pokemon says their name.
Exactly.
And that was their strongest form of attack that they knew, and I think that's why they got really surprised when other heroes are saying different kind of spell incantations, and they're like, whoa, I never realized you could get that far in depth on it. So I feel like they all just kind of single pointed, meteor strike this, meteor strike that, and never really seemed to do much.
I agree. That's pretty much on the point. That's what I was thinking about. Everyone being in unison. that was their strongest move. And
I don't know anything else, so I'm just going to use this one attack.
Why offer variety?
It's like, who is the second evolution of Caterpie?
Metapod.
Metapod when he uses Harden, and that's the only move he has.
There was that episode, and both Ash and that that samurai suited guy, there's just a battle to the dawn of who can use Harden the most.
Mm-hmm.
Such a boring episode. It was all right.
Or like in the games where you use it so many times, the defense will not go up.
It'll not go any higher. And then okay, well, I guess I'll use this until I have to struggle after I get rid of 30 fucking PP worths of Harden. Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
But Lance, who's your favorite character?
I am kind of currently struggling between two characters.
Okay.
I want to choose between Lark and Philo.
Okay.
And Lark and Philo.
Uh-huh.
Why Philo?
Philo because she has this enormous growth spurt between being age 0 and age 1, basically. It's just very strange. And for our viewers, Philo is the chocobo, the Final Fantasy chocobo that can flip between Valorial. Yeah, that's what she's called in the show.
Yep.
She can flip between a bird and a human.
Whereas
more of a bird and an angel, really. She's got those wings.
Yeah.
Moriyasa?
Moriyusa?
Huh?
How do you say his name?
The spear?
Motoyasa. Yeah, the Spiro, yeah.
Moriyasa.
Yeah, Moriyasu. There's a U at the end.
Oh.
Moriyasu, with the big fat bird, as he would call her.
Oh yeah. You get kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, he didn't know that same pretty angel girl is the same fat bird that he despised. Anyway, the reason I'm choosing between the two is because Lark, who was the Otherworlder with the scythe, is just, to me, flat out awesome. Like, I've always loved scythe users. I always think they have this darkness, this awesomeness to them, like this edginess. They always come out on top, like, cool. Like, they always have that cool factor. But at the same time, Philo has that enormous growth spurt, and we get to learn that Philo is being trained under the shield hero, and she's next in line to be, like, not necessarily a princess, but, like, this, like, next in kin for being this super amazing...
Should be the queen of the Florials.
Yeah.
Florials. There we go. That's a
yeah, that word.
Mm-hmm.
Besides even being the next queen, she's just super strong, super fast to begin with, and she's super loyal. And every time Naofumi goes into his rage mode, for whatever reason, she gets affected at the same time. And I thought that was always a cool thing to infuse in that. And Matt, you want to say something about that?
So they do explain it. Alec, do you remember what the reasoning behind both of the rage for her?
I know in front of the first one was when they were facing the undead dragon, and it was because Philolials and dragons are mortal enemies, so it kind of activated something deep within Philo, and that's why she kind of resonated with the rage and kind of went into her little super mode, little all fast and strong really quick, but
so that was
more glass cannon.
That was that one.
For that scene?
Yeah. So
but what about post? Because she's been affected post.
So she kind of goes into that rage mode because she kind of really this is her first true battle ever at that point when she fights the dragon. So then she just kind of zones in on the dragon. But the reason they go over it, the reason why during the fight with Glass is because she swallows the dragon crystal. She swallowed that crystal from the dragon, and then
she had that purple glow in her stomach.
Yep. And then Naofumi has the crystal in his shield, so that's why it combined, is because the crystals are reacting to each other.
But I thought didn't she?
She only threw up part of it.
Oh, so part of it's still inside of her.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch
interesting.
that.
Okay, I didn't catch that either. I assumed when she threw it up and he absorbed it into his shield, like that was all and done, and she just somehow got affected by it. But apparently, a little bit of it's still in her.
Yeah. So
she's
she talks about how she
that out or anything.
She ate part of it or threw up part of it. So I watched it twice, and then obviously reading the manga, I read it a third time. Or read it and then got to see it a third time.
Yeah, so you got a good grasp on it.
Yeah.
Obviously. Damn. Well, that's pretty interesting. I guess I didn't really catch that my first time through.
The only thing is that when he went pseudo rage the third time, when he was fighting the Pope, she didn't get all berserk. So I'm not 100% sure. I wonder if it's only when she's in her bird form that she goes crazy.
Maybe. Because if you say that, when Naofumi went rage at the end of the series as well, like when he was starting to go rage before he got stopped, like we didn't get to see that she was starting to get affected. Maybe that could have just been like a cutscene that we didn't need to see, but like
no.
At the same time, what if she was getting affected? We didn't know, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, we didn't see that she was getting affected at that point either.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what's going on with that one. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes rage again, or when he goes rage again, if we see her go berserk as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't really remember her going... I think she only went berserk twice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just those two times.
I think she only truly got affected twice.
Wasn't it also against the dragon, the Tyrannosaurus Rex dragon thing?
No, her stomach was glowing in reaction to the T-Rex's stone in his stomach, or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So, because she didn't go berserk, it was just those two crystals were reacting to each other.
Gotcha, okay.
One thing I do want to say, I'm glad I finally got to get you to watch this, though. Because it's probably been, like 2-3 years since...
Yeah, it's been a long time. Okay, so, yeah, this is April of 2022. This anime came out in, 2019?
2019, yep.
And, yeah, so obviously it's been 3 years since this anime came out. Full disclosure, we are honestly covering this anime because of
launch of season 2. Yep.
Right. So now we're here, and Matt wanted to watch this for the longest time, and I was negligent to watch this because, once again, me, like many other people, have judged this book by its cover. And I thought, what fun is an anime that's gonna make a shield the main character? And fuck, dude, I was proven wrong. Hardcore.
Yes, because I mean, nobody ever picks a shield. Nobody
No.
ever picks wanting to be a shield guy. So even when I play Skyrim, I don't even run around with a shield. Like I'll run with a sword and no shield over a shield and a sword. Like a one-handed sword is better than a sword and a shield.
Right. Because we always think what's quicker.
Yep.
We just want to get from point A to point B as fast as possible. And if you can cut your way there, awesome.
Yep.
So this is actually one reason why I've always wanted to watch this, because I am that one out of 1,000 people where I do like picking the shield and going full tank, because everyone goes for DPS, damage per second.
Yep.
Everyone wants to either be DPS button mashing melee, or they want to be casting major spells in the background, or just sitting off and, picking people off with range. Nobody wants to be the tank. I am always the tank in every video game I play, because it's the most sought out for role, because nobody's playing it, because everyone's like, oh, I don't want to sit there eating damage. But that's a really important role to play. Someone has to be there taking all the damage so everyone else can just focus on bringing whatever it is down. And that was his role. His role was to sit there, take the punches. I mean, you saw that in episode 2 when he's going up against that two-headed wolf creature, and dude is taking hits. He's bleeding. He's having a hard time, but he can't really do anything because he's the tank, and that's his role, is to take the punches so someone else can dish out the damage. And I think it's really interesting for a show, especially with the whole virtual reality VR MMO style that Rising the Shield Hero is because everything, you think of Sword Art Online. Dude doesn't only have one sword, he's got 2 swords. And
that was a special skill that made him approve beyond everybody.
So every show like that always goes on the offensive, and you never see the defensive character side of the story. Or if you do, they're usually just some big guy in the background with a bunch of armor on and no real personality development. So I thought this was really cool animated to show that side.
Mm-hmm. You did an amazing job explaining all of that, but never mind, I can't even capitalize on that. Fuck, man, I had a little bit to say, but never mind. You said it so well. Cheers.
Thanks.
Kanpai.
Kanpai.
So now Naofumi truly utilizes this shield to its fullest extent. And I really couldn't see this used in any other way other than in a form of resentment or rage or like fuck these guys. Why am I going to sit here? The way I went into this show is I expected our main character to be the bitch to stand in front of every army and be the stupid little shield while everyone else behind them does all the actual attacking. That's what you kind of expect. But this show does such an awesome job at showing that it doesn't have to be that way.
Yep.
And I think that's who all of our potential viewers like me who judge a book by its cover needs to recognize that that's not what this is about, and it's a badass anime for a reason.
Yeah, it shows you that being essentially the shield isn't necessarily the worst thing. It's, as you were saying, Alec, just somebody has to take the damage at one point, especially when you're seeing all these catastrophes going on. It's people are taking damage, and Naofumi's well, I guess I'll be that guy that kind of either distracts people, becomes the center of attention by bringing in everybody so that either his teammates can attack him or Lark and his crew can attack the monsters. And yeah, it was kind of something where I thought that maybe being a shield isn't necessarily the worst thing.
What did you guys think of the teamwork used between Naofumi and his typical team of the sword, spear, and bow, and the teamwork that he used with Lark and the gem hero, the other girl? I cannot remember her name. Therese, yes.
Yeah.
Lark and Therese. What do you think about the team when they are all fighting at the end? Because he did at first start the fight with his original team, and then later on in the fight he used Lark and Therese. What do you think about their different styles on bringing a major boss down?
Okay, I guess I'm a little confused on how you wanted this to be answered. How do we think about how Naofumi would have taken down an enemy as his original team of 3 versus how he teamed up with Lark?
Well, I think you're wondering about the other heroes, so the 4 heroes.
Are we talking about the Wave of Catastrophe?
Yeah, so in the Wave of Catastrophe, so they started out in using their normal kind of fight pattern of we're all going to fight using our best move at the same time. Whereas Lark and Therese, their strategy was, let's combo up our moves to form, one really big strong attack instead of 4 pinpointed attacks. Do you think that worked better? Is it a better strategy than just launching everything you've got? Or
Well, are you also saying, because you say that, I'm also thinking about the Spear Hero, who also has like his team of like 3 other girls who give him incantations to do the combo. Like, are you referring to that? Like,
yes,
combo attacks versus Naofumi, who is not using combo attacks.
not really. Yeah.
So it's basically...
I have wondered this myself.
Lark,
Mhm.
Therese,
Therese.
Therese, there we go, sorry. Lark, Terrace, and...
Therese.
God damn it. So it's Lark, Terrace,
You said it again.
God damn it! Therese, right?
Say
Yes.
Just deep breath.
So I think what you're trying to say is kind of where Lark, Therese,
Mhm.
and Naofumi, actually work as a team. Crazy concept. Or where all the other heroes basically do their own thing and attack, quote unquote, as a team, but they're all just using their strongest attack on the monster and then do absolutely nothing the rest of the time because they're completely useless. I don't know if anybody can tell how I feel about the other heroes. Who knows?
Like when they came in and asked for like the drops, like, oh, all the heroes share, and even Naofumi's like, that would have been that would have mattered if you guys actually did something.
Yeah, right. I'm so happy he said that. Like, he's such an awesome asshole. I love how he is like that.
Oh, so in the manga it's even better because then they give an excuse. Oh, well, those attacks use all our SP, so we had to revive our SP in order to attack some more. It's like, well, then don't use a move you can only use once against a monster you have to fight for more than one attack.
You want to know what's going to be some BS about that? Is that I'm pretty sure they made mention in the anime somewhere that I'm pretty sure the other 3 awesome-ass heroes are on much higher levels than Naofumi is.
Mhm.
Okay, so we learn at the end of the series after the experience share arc that Naofumi gets at like level 70.
He's 73.
Something, yeah, so something very close to that.
Yep.
And if we were to assume that these other heroes are way beyond him, at least maybe that was early in their series. Maybe I'm not too sure.
No, they're talking about being higher level than Naofumi even at this point.
Right.
Mhm.
So even at the end, they're talking about being
because they
higher.
were saying like we are at a much higher level than you, yet you are able to hold your own better than we are.
What cheat moves are you using that you're stronger than us even though you're at a lower level?
The OP shield, they keep calling it. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my god, it's not really that.
And he's like, well, I actually work and put effort into this while you guys just go around doing dumb shit. But anyway, keep going to your question or statement.
Honestly, I lost track where I was going. with that.
They were much higher level, but they used all their SP, using those meteor blasts. If they're that much higher level, shouldn't they also recover a lot faster then too?
Ooh, something about the SP.
Lance is having a brain fart right now. It's
The
okay.
only time SP's really other mentioned in the show, at least, is when he's using the Soul Eater shield against Glass.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's like, normally against monsters, this only sucks out their SP.
Yep.
But for you, it's draining your life force as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to carry on that, it made me wonder, like, because they're from, like, essentially a whole nother universe, like a parallel universe.
Yep.
Okay, so, I mean, it's very strange because everything is revolved around the shield. So, Glass, instead of receiving spiritual energy or whatever, was draining her health. And Lark, who just so happened to be perfect against the shield, was, like, had this special ability to cut through a shield and damage directly. So there was, weirdly enough, like pros and cons on this other world that directly affected the shield itself. So I wonder what that means for this other world. I mean, I have so many questions to ask about season 2. I mean, we can get into that a little bit later, but like we can talk about this in the...
So I will say, Naofumi does talk about how he has an idea of what Glass is, and in the manga they go into it. So we can talk about that later.
Okay, because I am curious. I haven't started season 2 yet, so I don't want any spoilers.
So it's not a spoiler. It's just a difference from the manga to the anime, because in the anime, Naofumi talks about, he's like, I wonder, and then he kind of just moves on and starts attacking Glass. But in the manga, he goes more into it. And like I said, I'll bring that up later on when I go into the manga mentions. I guess we can talk about our favorite fights. One thing I do want to mention is the only reason why I didn't pick Lark was because you really only get him for like 3 episodes. So there's no real development with Lark.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's no true development. I'm just super ass interested in him.
Yep.
It's not like he had a super amazing thing. Like,
Yep.
at the same time, he was on par with Glass. Like, that bitch shows up, slashes up that Soul Eater like nobody's business,
Yep.
and then fucks off. Same deal with Lark. Even though at this, after Naofumi was able to level up enough to defend himself, everything was hunky-dory after that. But, like, now we learn that he's from a whole different world, and now I just want to know so much more.
Which, just to kind of go into what season 2 is about, that will, if I had to guess, we hopefully will get more information about that, or Lark
If
at
we
all.
don't, I'm going to be so insanely mad.
Just because they introduced him and the second world, so you feel like they would have to like keep reintroducing him, like at some point.
If he's not a main character in season 2, I will be surprised.
Yeah, that'd be really weird.
Like, because he's obviously... Oh, this is going to be one of my questions.
Yep.
Because we have the 4 cardinal heroes of, let's just call it our world, because that's
Yep.
what we know.
Yep.
And now we got this other world, but we only know of 3 of their cardinal heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So, are they going to also have a 4th cardinal hero that we'd have yet to learn about? Or do we know what we know?
See, I have a theory on that where I think we've only been introduced 3 because I think there are only 3 because 1 must have died. And they keep saying that all 4 heroes have to die in order to reset the world. So that's why their catastrophe is getting out of hand and they have to come to this world to kill off the 4 heroes because they don't have 4 heroes to kill off. They only have 3. So they have to go to another world, kill off those 4, and then maybe somehow their world gets saved from that. But I don't think that they have a 4th hero remaining, which is what's causing the problems between the worlds.
I can see that.
That's what I kind of gather from it. Why would they only show 3 if everyone else has tales of 4 heroes?
Sure.
And they make a really strong indication. Like Fitoria says, I have to kill all 4 of you. At the very beginning, they said the only way you can return to your world is if all 4 of you die. So that means if only one of them dies, that means the 3 are basically left there stranded, a man down, and have no way to defeat the catastrophes.
Ooh, good point, because Glass isn't afraid to die. Because if she dies, then mission solved regardless. So it's either all or nothing at that point.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm totally on board with that.
I could see that. The only thing I kind of take back is the fact that one of them died, so now they're coming to that one to kind of... It's just... I don't really see that one, but I could be wrong.
I mean, it is questionable. Yeah, why would they even come to another world to begin with?
Mhm.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. I'm curious to see what happens in... I guess we're going to go down the season 2 route, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in season 2. Also, just in case anybody wants to know, this is a light novel as well. So in case anybody wants to actually read the light novel to really go take that deep dive into Rising of the Shield Hero, you can do that as well. But to go back to season 2, it'll be interesting. I don't think Lark is going to be a main character in season 2 because then that means he would have teleported to his own world to immediately teleport back into our world. That, to me, that seems a little not plausible. I feel like something's going to happen and then he's going to teleport or come back to our world. I feel like something has to happen before he comes back.
Yeah. I mean, it's even strange to begin with that he has access to both worlds.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering if the heroes have an ability to be able to transport between worlds, or what's going on. Like, how do they have that ability to be able to transfer between the worlds?
Well, they do have teleporting, and the whole series Naofumi doesn't even know about teleporting. He's traveling the long route everywhere.
Right.
And getting experience along the way. It turned out to be good for him, but everyone else using teleports. What if these heroes have found a way to not only teleport to different places within their own world, but also different universe worlds?
Yeah, and I can totally piggyback on that because they can only teleport to where they've been. Is that the rule?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so traveling from place to place is going to be eventually a good thing for Naofumi. Awesome. So so these other worlders are gonna, we can assume now that they're gonna have the potential to teleport between their world and our world back and forth. I mean, I don't know how much further I want to go than that, but like the thing that honestly throws me off is that these new worlders are at a very, very similar level to our heroes.
They were actually less.
They are very like
Lark was only level 53
Yeah, Lark was 53, while Naofumi was...
in his
I think
70s.
Well, I think he was 60 when they talked about it.
When they were going to the island.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the archipelago.
Yes.
Archipelago?
I did write this.
Archipelago.
Archipelago.
I did
Yeah,
write
so when they were talking about levels, he was talking about how he's like 60 or 60 something,
Mm-hmm.
and Lark and them were 53 and 50 or something along those lines.
Literally way more powerful than, even the higher level spear, sword, and bow heroes.
Yes.
So it looks like their level doesn't really matter compared to the skill set that they have with their weapons. So I think Motoyosu has it right, the spear hero, where, when they were all arguing of who had the best training methods, and the shield hero's like, well, you have to collect everything first, and the sword hero's like, no, you have to develop your skill sets, and then the spear's like, no, you have to upgrade your weapon stats as high as possible.
and the bow was like, no, you have to find the rarest item.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because rare definitely means better.
Right. So I wanted to, just to tag along on like that, like everybody had their own specialized way to get their own special item. And what we learned was that Naofumi on the side was like, yeah, if you believe that that's the way to do it, then you get a skill upgrade to begin with. So if everybody believed that that was the way to upgrade yourself, that yes, if you found a secret weapon and you found some way to upgrade and whatever, like if we were to combine all of our special ways to upgrade or define the most powerful weapon, then we can all get the most powerful weapon, which I would assume is going to happen in season 2. Like everybody's going to come to the same agreement that we can all have this badass weapon.
I feel like it's going to take a lot longer than one season for all of them to finally cooperate with each other.
Oh yeah,
But at least get an idea of why they should cooperate.
I still don't see him cooperating in season 2, like at all, because even after the final catastrophe, we're accusing Naofumi of cheating and doing all these other things. So they want absolutely nothing to do with anything he's saying. So they still just want to do whatever they want. And I feel like season 2 will be no different. Maybe season 3, maybe.
I can see maybe the bow being more on board with the shield, because I think he's a little bit more logical, like futuristically logical. I don't know. That's just my perception.
He's the most willing to change.
Yeah, exactly. And
But
then
he's got that
maybe
hero complex.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's willing to do anything that he doesn't believe is worthy of being a hero.
maybe. But I guess if I was to make like a hierarchy of who's the next to follow along with this
method,
it would be the bow, then the sword, then the spear, because obviously they made the spear to be this idiot who has the biggest ego.
Yep, the pretty boy, as you could call him.
Pretty much.
And his followers, I want to see more of Itsuki, the bow's followers, because I mean you kind of see the spear heroes like he actually went with all magicians to complement his bow, and like the sword hero, the spear? The spear hero's got everyone has just the magicians
For his combo attacks.
But the bow had the most dynamically diverse team, but you never really see them in action.
The only one you see is
the green hair chick at the end?
Risha.
Yeah.
Yep. Risha.
Who will be a part of... This is kind of a spoiler.
Episode 25, Risha officially joins
Yes.
Naofumi's party.
Yep.
Yes.
As far as the anime goes, that's what we know.
And then she was a part of the bow party. So it's going to be one of those things that now he's really never going to listen to Naofumi because he, quote unquote, stole one of his party members, even though he kicked her out. She's the only one that you see, which I will say, because I read a little bit of season 2, if they follow along with the manga for season 2, she is important for season 2.
Okay.
I'd imagine. I mean, why would they introduce a random ass chick
Yes.
out of nowhere, especially if she's got different colored hair, because everyone who has a different color hair has a different importance.
Yeah, she's super.
That's one thing I wanted to point out. Everyone in Naofumi's party has different colored hair.
Yep.
You have
This
the
rainbow of a
red,
party.
the yellow, the blue, like, and now green.
And now green, yep.
And I noticed that too, that his color, like, it's kind of like where you see like those funny pictures of, like, guess who the main character is? And it's like a room full of people in white shirts and slacks. And then you have like the two people and like one's in a very bright blue and the other's in dark red. You're like, wonder who the main characters are.
Very funny you say that because we literally just talked about that in one of our latest episodes.
Yeah, the last episode we talked about that, and we brought up Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's funny.
Another classic.
And it's very true. It's completely true. And then they also do it in My Hero Academia as well. But to go back to Shield Hero, they do a very good job of everybody being super unique. That's something that I really enjoyed about this. Like, they could have easily made everybody kind of closely resembling each other, but every single main character is completely unique to themselves. And I really enjoyed that because, like I said, you could have just made everybody very similar, and they didn't do that. And there's a lot of characters in this show.
There is quite a few.
One thing I do want to touch upon is what I really liked about Rising the Shield Hero is the very first episode. They didn't just go into, I feel like most animes will start off, you have the first 4 episodes being just straight storyline and character introductions. Whereas they kind of did all of that in one episode. They made it, it's a 50-minute long episode, but it was very important to have that first episode be longer than all the rest. So that way they don't get dragged down into that of the whole, multiple episodes just being used for character, introductions. Like I remember after the first episode, I was talking to my wife and I was like, well, this is this person, this is this person, this is what's going on. And she's like, you got all of that out of 20 minutes? And I was like, no, I actually got that out of 50 minutes because they took their time and introduced everything appropriately. So that's one thing I really enjoyed about this anime in general.
Yeah, I mean, get your shit together. Let's just say everything we need to say in this first episode. Let's all agree that this is the way it is, and then let's grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I was 100% on board with that because, I mean, we're talking about isekai. Let's fucking go. Like, I want to know what happens next.
This is, the second episode? Or the second series that we've covered that had basically had a double episode for the first one.
Yeah, this is our second episode that we covered.
Yep.
What was the first one?
The first one was Darwin's Game.
Yeah, yep, that was at Darwin's Game. Yep, they had a long first episode. I have no opposition to a longer first episode as long as it's, worth it and it's not boring. And they made it worth it. So I was totally on board.
Yes. One thing I do want to say, one thing I noticed is, so after episode 21, it felt like there was a shift. How would you guys have felt if they had made episode 21 the end of the season?
Let's see, episode 21 slept for 3 days because after the blood sacrifice, the blood sacrifice was pretty good. There was a 3-day sacrifice. Does the queen plan for the king and mine to be executed? Pointed to a custom mine prove her lies. Oh, she got painted for her lies.
Yeah, she got the slave crest.
Spear hero forms a pact with mine equals bitch, king equals trash,
I
and
love
Church of
that.
Four. Okay.
So basically episode 21 is his redemption episode where he finally gets proven that he's done none of the things that they've said and he officially gets his hero's salute as he's leaving.
Okay, so if episode 21 was the final episode of the arc or the series, will we have been satisfied?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I would think like shit was resolved.
Yep.
And there could be things to look forward to after that we wouldn't necessarily be like just because there's like yes.
See, I'm going to have to disagree with you there, and I would have to move you up a couple episodes to when they're on the island, and I feel like it would have been a very fitting ending as far as a cliffhanger goes of, hey, we just found this underwater dragon hourglass. I think that would have been a really fitting ending. Because it would have been like, oh my gosh, what does this mean?
That's an insane cliffhanger.
And that would have drawn, I think they answered that question way too fast, in my opinion. They could have, the suspense could have been held forever.
Yeah, there was zero suspense for that underwater hourglass.
They only had 2 days.
I mean, yes, they had quote unquote 2 days, but the very next episode was exactly the catastrophe.
Yeah.
Like, there was zero screen time preparation, which could have been a good season 2 break or just an arc break or something. I mean, no, I take that back. It would not have been an arc break because it's obviously still the same arc, but it could have been a good pause point.
I will say, in the manga, you really don't get too much. Basically, he just goes back, he tells the queen what's going on, and he's like, we need help.
Right, and that's what we are to assume.
Well, he really
says. There's a 2-day time jump, and that's what we viewers are to assume. That they made preparations, shit happened. I mean, sure.
So it's not really too far
far-fetched
off from the manga. Because, I mean, it's the nice thing about the manga is you can go slightly more in depth with what's going on as compared to the anime, where sometimes because you have your time constraints and you have your episode constraints, you need to gloss over the non-important details that, like, even when I'm doing the differences, I'm like, that's a difference. I don't need to talk about it because it's nothing. It means absolutely nothing.
Yeah, to be back on Alex's point, like, it could have been a potential point to get someone prepared for a season 2.
I can see that.
In the shonen route, at least.
I can 100% see that. I wouldn't have minded that one. The only problem is because there is a chance for animes to either have a very long time span between season 1 and season 2. I would much rather an anime stop at a conclusion of something than stop at a cliffhanger, only because while I can be patient and wait, sometimes I don't want to wait 3 years for an anime season 2 or season whatever to appear.
Wait, are you talking about Attack on Titan? Where it takes for fucking ever for the next portion to come out?
The final season part 3. The final season part 4.
Basically, where it's like, alright, I love the anime, but either give me a break point or just keep going, because...
I agree. Just get as much as possible, release it all in one chunk.
Yes. Or give me a little bit less. I'll take 11 episodes if that's your clean break point. Don't give me something weird where it's like, well, alright, well, I guess I'm going to read the manga because I don't want to wait for who knows how long. Or it's...
as long as there's a consistent release date.
Yes.
Like, fuck Attack on Titan where it takes years to release a section of episodes versus, like, Demon Slayer where we're releasing arc by arc. Like, let's just get some kind of consistency.
Let's be honest here. Between season 1 and Mugen Train, it was like 3 years. So it was a very long time between season 1 and Mugen Train. And now they're like, well, here's Mugen Train. Here's season 2. And by the way, season 3 is going to come out next spring. And you're like, all right, cool. That's great. But didn't I just have season 2? Like,
yeah, but it's still faster than Attack on Titan.
That's not really saying a whole lot.
True.
That's setting the bar real low.
So I will say, I found it, I don't want to really call it weird that they continued the episode, but when it kept going, I'm like, all right, that's interesting. Well, I guess I had to look back and see how many more episodes I had to watch, because I was like, okay, well, now what's going to happen? So I think I did that twice, but I'm out of beer. So you want to do a beer run?
Yes, let's do a beer run.
All right, this is Alec. I'm the guest host in the Anime Lounge, and we just got back from our beer run, and one character that I would really like to start talking about now, I feel like we haven't really given her too much attention, but Raphtalia, the main side character for Naofumi. What do you guys think of her? What do you think of her introduction? Who wants to start?
Well, I just want to say real quick, right off the bat, a raccoon totally threw me off. Like, who the fuck thinks about a raccoon? I mean, we have dogs, we have cats, we have foxes, but a raccoon, kudos to you guys. Like, yeah, let's throw a cute raccoon in the mix. I'm totally for that. But they did a good job. Totally left field.
I like the
Left field,
teal.
right field, is that baseball? Sorry, what's the Matt? You're probably more on the baseball term. Is that left field? Is
Yeah,
that
totally
right?
out of left field.
I really like the fact that, they made her something different, made her a raccoon. And then I know in the manga specifically, the slave owner's like, well, people don't really like raccoons because they're timid and easily frightened. And in the beginning, you see those things where she's timid, easily frightened, where she didn't want to help Naofumi fight all these demons, especially the one that looked like the demon that killed her parents.
Right, that twin-headed dog thing.
Mhm.
And then she gets that awesome character development where she's like, I want to live. I want to be Naofumi's sword. I want to be useful. I don't want to be this weak individual that can't do anything and either relies on other people to survive or watches everybody else die. And then the biggest thing she has is she doesn't want other kids to go through what she went through.
Right.
Alec, did you have any sort of enjoyment?
So with Raphtalia's character development, I thought at first she was incredibly annoying. The high-pitched whining all the time. She was always crying about something. I was like, oh, great. Here's another side character that I'm just not really going to enjoy. But then
I agree.
after that scene where she kind of steps up to the plate and conquers her fears, and then because of the growth pattern or the growth power that the Shield hero has, along with her own intense leveling, because she is, I mean, if you ever notice, she is always a higher level than Naofumi.
Yes, and I wanted to point that out. Like, I pointed that out in the very early season. Like, Naofumi gains his experience through his partners.
Yep.
And if we were to dissect this, technically he should be at a higher level than his slave in the beginning. But as we see through the episode growth, at one moment that we see Raphtalia is at she's got one level on Naofumi. Like, if you guys are sharing EXP, why are you guys not equal? And above all, why is she above you?
Well, you do see she gets more experience than he does, and I mean he was level 1 when he got Raphtalia.
Was he? No,
Yeah.
no. I think he was a couple because he was killing those balloon pieces of shit.
So
So I think he was at like level 2 or 3 at that point.
But she still ends up outpacing him at one point.
But she's still outpacing him. Yeah, like, so I mean, I guess I don't remember whether he adopted her as a slave at level 1. She might have been level 2. I don't know. I don't quite remember.
yeah, they don't go into it, and even in the manga they don't go into it. They just you get that one brief moment where it's like, oh, okay, well she's right above him, and then later on, I think towards the end when he talks about his levels, where he's 73 and Raphtalia is like 76.
Mm-hmm. She's still higher than him at that point.
Yep.
And I think it's because she is the one dealing the damage. Yeah, they share XP, but I'm pretty sure it never shows it in the show. But I'm pretty sure that because she deals the finishing blow every time, that she gets like 75 or 66% of the XP, and he gets the remaining 34.
She just gets the extra bonus.
Yeah, she gets that
She's the
little
one that
bonus
dealt
XP.
the final blows. She's the one that gets the extra.
It's like experience share in Pokemon. The
Little bit.
finishing Pokemon gets the majority of, and then the rest of the Pokemon get the rest of what's ever left.
Yeah, the residue remainder kind of thing.
Yep. That's probably the best way to put it. And I mean, Naofumi is never really that far behind. So, because I know when Philo and Raphtalia get to level 40, I think they show him at like 38 or something.
Yeah, he's always slightly behind.
Just ever so slightly behind. So it's not like he's level 30 and they're level 40 or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
So
But like what the anime constantly reminds us is that even though he might be at that level and our other 3 heroes, the bow, the shield, or the bow, the spear, and the sword, might be essentially double. Naofumi is essentially, double what they are because of everything that he's gained along the way. Because he's gained all these skills. And I would probably say, that hatred deal is probably the biggest bonus.
yep.
I kind of want to see, because at the end of the series, or the end of the season, all 3 of the other heroes are all saying to themselves, I'm going to be better than the Shield hero. I'm going to surpass Naofumi. And I kind of want to see if they develop their own kind of like curse or hate series.
Yes, that was one of my questions, because if they all have the same option to learn each other's shit, why wouldn't each individual hero learn this cursed ability? And that was going to be one of the things I wanted to talk about for what I expect out of season 2/season 3. Because we learned at the end of season 1 that Naofumi was able to learn teleportation. He was able to learn the replication.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't the other 3 heroes learn this cursed stuff? Of course, we can branch off a little bit and say, like, maybe the prior shield heroes made some secret pact with a demon, and only the shield hero is affected by this specific ability. We have no idea. We can only speculate at this moment. Thoughts?
I think no. Only because the only reason why Naofumi has this ability is because the hatred in which he feels for that country and its people, and then it also gets magnified by the hatred that Dragon Whom, that stone that he has in his armor, it amplifies the hatred that he has towards those individuals, while the other 3, they're kind of living the easy life. Like, they don't really have to do anything. They can kind of do whatever they want, and nothing really matters. It's kind of like, if you were to play like GTA with all the cheat codes, and you're just like, well, I have all these abilities, I have all the guns, I can just go kill whoever I want, and nothing really matters. And it's kind of how I feel that the other 3 heroes' life is like.
Right, but what if at the same time there's that, the inner willpower that awakens the curse? Because we learned that Naofumi learns that there's the teleportation deal because he believed that there was such a thing.
I think it all has to do with basically getting fucked over.
Yeah. So what if the shitty ass spear hero got fucked over and he starts feeling this hatred in the middle of his heart?
I mean, it's possible. I just don't see I don't see him getting screwed over in the manner in which Naofumi got screwed over.
If I was to assume, I would imagine the bow hero, because he'd be the next, I would imagine him being the next weak link in the selection of who would want to be who. So I would
especially with how they got rid of his one character, how she was just accused of doing something and he just bought it immediately, didn't ask any questions, kicked her out of the team. He does seem the most likely to go dark next.
The bow?
The bow hero, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because he kicked out the green-haired chick at the end. So yeah, what if he's going to be the next one to be defamed, and he's going to be the next one to see the chaos come within his heart? Well, and then he's going to be the one to consume and understand everything. Because I think everybody has the same capability of learning everything. It's just on different perspectives.
I think season 2, we're going to see less of that rage shield. So I think that's going to be one of those things where they're just kind of like, we're not going to use it as much as the seasons go on. So I feel like it's just not something, because he needs to become less reliant on it, or he is probably going to kill his counterparts.
Or even himself.
So I feel like the rage shields kind of become less involved in the series. So I just think
good point. Because I was about to counter that. I was about to say, his rage shield is his most powerful technique, but we need him to survive beyond. So if he tries to kill himself, we can't try to come close to killing himself again, because otherwise this shit's going to get old. We need to add to that form of drama. So we need to skip a season and put the blood sacrifice to season 3 again, because it's going to have to be resurfaced at a point where he's going to have to overcome it and maybe even take control of it to his advantage, because that's how anime works. So I can see I can totally agree where season 2 he's not going to take the blood. He might even take a step down. We can see where the other heroes take a big advantage step above the shield, and we need to see how he can expand beyond that.
Okay.
Might be getting a little bit beyond myself at the moment.
Just because we're kind of already going down that rabbit hole. So is there something?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
What are you guys looking for?
I didn't mean to start this already.
What are you guys looking forward to for season 2 then?
I'm looking forward to seeing more people being added to his team, along with, I guess, maybe a guy being thrown into his team. I feel like he's only teaming up with these girls, and not that I have anything wrong with, girl teammates is okay. I mean, typically in animes, you see whenever it's a girl character in a team, it's usually the typical, the healer or the magician that fights from the back. I think Raftalia kind of, and Philo for that matter, kind of go against that type by being the vanguard, the people that are going straight into the fight. But, he can bro out with a dude too as well. I feel like he's kind of kept from all of the guys in the show. So I kind of want to see him team up. Maybe it's Lark or someone else, who knows, but I kind of want to see him team up with a guy who could help expand their team development maybe a little bit better.
Okay.
I'm 100% on board with that. I would like to see another dude. And I also agree with we need another support character.
Okay.
We have defense, and we have Raftalia on attack, and we have Philo on attack, and even with Melty's in there, she's also on attack. We see her sometimes on the defensive, but like she doesn't have like the support like healing or defense plus or anything, or like speed plus. Like we obviously know that this is video game esque style of a show. So if we have any kind of boosters, we need these kind of boosters on your team, and we have yet to see these type of people on our hero side. So, yes, I would expect some form. I mean, obviously, Lark isn't going to be that support character, unlike his character, unlike Therese, who helps him with his combo attacks. We have yet to have a support character to do any of the sorts.
You don't think Risha is going to be that support character? That's a green-haired chick.
Could be, because we know anything about her?
She's a battle mage, I think. She
has
has armor, but she casts magic, so that makes me think she's more of like the battle mage class.
She has an affinity for magic, but I think the bow hero wanted her to be like an attacker, and that's just not her affinity. So he basically called her useless because technically he's useless to her, if that's what you wanted to call it.
I mean, maybe. It's a good start, at least. Yeah, I mean, obviously the final episode, I'm surprised I forgot about that. Yeah, but it's definitely a good start.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with her, like how she's going to play a vital role to his group. And come on, you guys don't want him to have a harem like every other main character?
Yeah, like every other anime. Let's just make him the most happiest dude in the world.
The most miserable happy dude in the world.
I would feel better if he actually took advantage of it at least a little bit. Like, he's completely oblivious to, I mean, it might be kind of weird, the whole Philo and Raftalia kind of butting heads against each other of who gets to get the shield hero. It's like, I mean, I feel like it's clearly Raftalia simply because of no one wants to be with a child, but...
Okay, before you go much further, so this is one of my questions I wanted to ask. In the end, where the queen was going to give Naofumi one of the final wishes for helping out in the end, and Naofumi was keeping shit quiet, things were building up. I'm telling myself, there is no way in hell that Naofumi is going to ask to marry her. And I was sitting there getting more and more anxious. I'm like, if you fucking ask her to marry her out of nowhere because you've built up no relationship, I'm going to be mad. And then we get surprised in the end that he wants to just build his home base in honor of her homeland. So I don't know about you guys, but when you guys were watching that entire scene, did you think anything along the lines of like some fake ass marriage, or was that just me?
I think he's still oblivious. I think he talked about it they kind of make an allusion to that in the first episode where he's like walking down the street and those girls are talking like, oh, there's that cute guy over there. And he like looks at him like, oh, I wonder if they actually said that or if it was just a part of my imagination. I think that he just thinks that girls are just, he talks about, being an otaku and, only, gaming and anime are his life kind of thing, and how girls aren't really a part of it. I just think he's just totally oblivious to it, and girls aren't even on his radar whatsoever. It's just all over his head.
Yeah.
That was my inkling. But I can tell that he has feelings for girls, because you can, when Mine is pressing up against him, he's like, whoa, this girl likes me. And then I think it's because of that experience that he doesn't try anything with Raftalia.
He becomes instantly dark to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think she ruined it for him. Every asshole guy out there has a girl that just scorned him. So I think that was that circumstance, and I think he has no emotional feeling. He might develop that in season 2, and that'd be cool to see. But I think as it stands now, I wasn't expecting a marriage proposal or anything. I thought he was I was kind of in line with Raphtalia. I was like, oh, this dude literally plans on dying the next wave.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I mean, I didn't think about dying, but, like, he plans on leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like, I think that one's straightforward. Like, as soon as, I mean, I guess that was one of my next questions is there a finish line? Because there seems to be no end to these waves.
They said 10. Did
they say 10?
In the first episode, they said there's 10 waves of catastrophe, each one worse than the last.
Oh.
And they had survived the first one barely with no heroes. Then they summoned the heroes. They fought wave 2 and wave 3. And then I guess technically wave 4 was that last sea one. So there's 6 more waves to come.
I will say I don't remember any number of waves being talked about. It doesn't mean it wasn't said and I just missed it, but I don't remember them talking about any specific number of waves.
I also have a counter. Right? Okay, take my counter. Okay, so when we were meeting with the Queen of Philo, was there Queen Philota?
Oh, Vitoria.
Victoria was mentioning how all 4 of the heroes needed to separate because there was separate catastrophes happening all around their world at the same time. So there's many catastrophes happening.
Yep.
And it's a bad idea for multiple heroes to be at one catastrophe at a time. Like, they should be spread out at all times so that things could be, normal.
Yep. Well,
So if that's the case, then there has to be way more than 10 catastrophes. Maybe each hero has to conquer 10 catastrophes, but like Victoria made it sound like it was just a hurricane on Earth, like, or even a tornado. Like, shit was just happening at all times everywhere, and you just had to take care of it. Like, take care of your jurisdiction and make the world right. That's the way I took it.
See, that's how I thought about it, because you know how they get teleported every time, and
If they're in the area.
Okay, so what defines the area?
Exactly.
Because, so say that Philo hadn't found that underground thing. Would they have just all of a sudden be at the beach one day and then all of a sudden they're getting teleported and not even know about it?
Right, because they were already in the radius of the already attacking area.
probably. They probably would have gotten
Annihilated.
teleported into the middle of the ocean and then just been super screwed.
Because they were already in the area?
I think there's only one wave of catastrophe at a time. So I think what would have happened if what was supposed to happen actually happened, which was all the cardinal heroes getting teleported per country, is that what they would have been summoned to each country, gotten all the information they needed, been teleported to the wave, and then known that they could teleport back to their country, is what I believe would have happened if they had been separated as they should have been.
So instead of, because they were summoned all at the same time and it wasn't supposed to be that way, where one
Correct.
nation summons all of them.
Yes.
So you think that they should have, if it had gone according to plan, they just would have been trained on their own. They would have been conquering their own catastrophes and handling as they could. And because they did say when they work together that their items kind of attack each other and become less
negate
useful.
and like
So-
they zero each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So not quite. I think they would have trained on their own in their own countries that they got summoned to. And then when the catastrophe happens, they all get teleported together. And then once the catastrophe's over, they separate again. Because I think it would have been the catastrophe that brought them together. And then eventually they would have been like, all right, well, you're going to help me out. I'm going to help you out kind of thing. Versus, well, they all hate Naofumi because of various reasons. And then, as you were saying earlier, where they can't train too close to each other. The only time that really happens is when they're in the archipelago doing their basically super boost training. So that's not really an issue, even in Melremark, where they're not in countries away from each other.
Well, I mean, it kind of did affect them because when they were near each other, they couldn't get any more XP.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's only at that point they couldn't.
That was a
it would
special
have
event.
affected- Yeah.
That was from a higher down aspect. Like everybody knew that was a special, like, video game aspect. Like,
Yep.
everybody in this specific area was going to share experience. And I think at that specific point, they maxed out the experience at that little tiny island because everybody was just so happened to be at that island.
Okay.
Because they were all there, and because Naofumi went to a different island, which is a way more powerful island, and then he fucking maxed out. No problem.
I think what would have happened is if they would have been summoned to their respected countries that they were supposed to be summoned to, they all would have eventually made it to the archipelago because of the boost in XP.
I don't think the XP was worldwide. I think it was very, very nation
Yeah, it was
specialized.
It was to that archipelago.
Okay, yeah, okay.
But
just want to make that sure.
so the other 3 heroes knew about the quote unquote event that was happening for the XP boost. So I think Naofumi would have known about it if he had been at the separate country like he should have been.
Yeah, because he probably would have been born in the demi-human.
Yep, the demi-human,
Area.
the
Right.
one that worshipped the shield hero.
Right. Yeah, so I'm totally on board with all of that.
So it'll be interesting. Lance, what are you looking forward to for season 2?
Season 2, the biggest thing I can say is going to be one of the questions that I wanted to bring up. And I don't know, let me ask you guys before I say what I want to say.
Okay.
What is the next shield ability that you guys can look forward to? Do you guys, like, don't think too hard on it. I don't blame you guys, but, like, do you have another idea of what the shield can do?
Man, I guess so. He already has SP remover. It would probably be something to do with drops, maybe, where he could like actually create drops instead of needing all these ingredients to be able to create something.
I can see that. Like, just increase his drop rate.
Yeah, kind of.
Video game style. Sure.
Basically what Lark does for Glass.
Yep.
Be able to do essentially the same thing that he was able to do for Glass.
Okay.
I'm not really. I kind of like the mystery of whatever he's facing kind of gets incorporated into his next shield abilities. I think he has pretty good offensive ones with a double dog attack and the serpent poisoning bite thing.
Yep, those are both great.
And then he's got the fire chaos, the fire dragon shield to go along with it. So I think offensively he's fine. I think defensively, between the shield prison, the airstrike shields, and the Iron Maiden, I think that kind of shoves defense all into one thing. I guess we only get to see a little taste of his support abilities with his growth acceleration. I guess the people around him gain XP faster when they're training around him. I don't really think that there's anything I'm looking forward to seeing in season 2. Just more of what new monsters he's going to fight and how is that going to affect his shield abilities. I just kind of want to see what more he can add to it, because I feel like right now he's at like 100 shields and we only see 6 of them.
Jesus Christ, I'm surprised you didn't say what I wanted to know. Like, you fucking broke down everything about this shield. Dude, fucking kudos.
Okay.
Okay, well, like I just said, I'm glad you didn't say what I was... Okay, what I want out of the shield hero is to have a 7 Deadly Sins Meliodas full counter kind of deal. Like, I want our hero to take in an attack and learn how to have a counter attack. We see the counter attacks in all various forms of video games, and we also see in other video games where a counter attack sometimes deals multiple damage. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a 1v1, like sometimes it's a 1 versus 1.5 or even 2. Anyway, I want to see a reflection kind of ability.
Okay.
Or like a, Pokemon style mirror coat.
Yeah.
Fucking send it right back at him. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's
Okay.
one thing that I really wanted to see.
Kind of like a recoil damage kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would
Take
be
it
pretty
and
cool.
give it back.
Or something along the lines of a counteract to Lark's ability where he can basically the amount of damage he gives is proportional to the
damage he receives.
Not damage he
Oh.
receives, but your how high your damage category or your damage ranking is. So because Naofumi's level is so high in damage or in shielding,
In defense.
Yeah.
Let's just say defense.
in defense, he takes more damage than if you were to basically give zero fucks about defense and just focus everything on attack.
Right.
So Naofumi is his natural enemy in that sense because Lark ability is so against defense.
Yeah, so he basically ghosts defense. He
Yes.
goes straight towards HP, basically.
It's armor penetration.
Yep.
It's
Perfect.
Usually
Yes.
in most video games, that's what that skill is usually called, where it kind of negates the opponent's defense by just attacking their bare
Base defense.
their base defenses.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. That'd be interesting if he could find a way to negate that ability, because that'd be something super important if Lark were to become somebody important in season 2, because if he needs to fight him, I mean, right now we know he can't because Lark's scythe counteracts the shield.
Okay, well, if we're talking about that, that makes me remember that Naofumi has a special advantage towards glass over absorbing her health.
Mm-hmm.
Lark has a special ability through slashing Naofumi's shield.
Yep.
Let's just keep this shit going. Does everybody have an advantage over somebody? And I want to see this on like a breakdown sheet. Like I can see this being like a for real thing.
Kind of like a rock, paper, scissors board.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
That would be interesting.
That'd be so hard to organize. I would
Especially
love
if
to
it's-
see it done though.
Especially if it's going to be like 4x4, because on our world we have 4. Let's. Did I ask you guys if we have 4 cardinal weapons on our side? Do you think the other world has a 4th cardinal weapon that we have yet to see? And if so, what do you think it is?
Yeah, we did touch on that earlier. I think that they're dead. I think the 4th is dead.
Oh, that's right. I remember you saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so even if or if not, he's dead. What was it? Could you? Okay, let's just.
I think
minus that.
fan-
What could have been the 4th cardinal weapon on the other world?
I think the fan most likely goes with the shield. I think the scythe most likely goes with the sword. They're both slash weapons. I think that the gem hero most likely aligns with the bow hero. So I think that the spear hero, or some sort of variant of the spear hero, would be the 4th person missing on the otherworldly hero side.
It's very funny you say that because I'm 100% on board. I have a
Okay.
weapon in mind. Do you have a weapon in mind?
Mine would be more of like a staff, like a kendo staff.
Exactly. That's exactly
Okay.
what I was thinking. A staff. Like the monkey staff.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So I was I'm a little different, and I was taking the scythe as the spear, because I
I can see that.
watch a lot of Forge and Fire, so I have seen hundreds of different types of swords.
Oh, definitely. There is a million types of swords. Depending on every single country has their own style of sword.
So I could see it being a different style of sword over being a different type of quote unquote spear type weapon.
Sure.
Just because when it comes to long reach weapons, you have a lesser opportunity for differences.
Sure. I mean, for all we know, the bow could be a gun.
Yeah, it could be.
Absolutely right.
So it's
For like future heroes kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, at least in this terms, kind of cheating.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would be
And
a
maybe
gun.
that was maybe that's the reason why he was the first taken out, because he was the first, he was the first target one kind of guy. Like he was the most
targeted, most deadly, most...
When you want to focus in a fight kind of thing.
I don't know. I'm trying
He
to...
was
blank.
just the number one guy you wanted to take out. Let's just go with that.
No. But it's just one of those things where I feel like the sword has the greatest variance, that you could easily pick a sword being different.
Sure.
So that's just my thought.
Yeah, I mean, you have like the Egyptian sword, which is like a dual kind of blade. You can even make it a dual blade.
Yep.
Sure, let's just even go that route. Like, there is so many variations of a blade. It could even be a dagger.
It could be a dagger.
It could be an assassin.
I feel like it's going to be a sword, though.
That would
I would
be
imagine
cool.
a sword, but I would imagine a dual blade. If we're gonna go with some kind of blade, I would like to see a dual blade.
Okay.
That's my point of view, at least.
But to go back to, as far as season 2 is concerned, I think it'll be interesting to see how they kind of leap off of everything we've learned. So are we going to figure out a way that we can see Glass and Lark and his crew? Because one, we don't know about the fourth hero, whether that individual is dead or, I mean, we know they have to be summoned or chosen, might be the best way to say it. Has that person even been summoned yet?
We don't even know. I mean, we saw Glass before we saw Lark and what's her face. Like, she could just, like, the fourth person could just be, like, anywhere else.
Yeah,
That person doesn't necessarily have to be exactly where the other three
could Glass
false
have
heroes
been,
are.
Could Glass have been summoned first and then the other two been later?
That's true.
Because we
too.
know it's been, what, a month, 2 weeks? It's been I think it's 2 weeks.
What if the fourth person is someone that we've already seen?
And we just don't know it yet?
Exactly.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is it we don't know it yet or they don't know it
I
yet?
think we know.
We
it
don't
yet.
know.
Like it
Okay.
could be like the armor person for all we know. That could be a tank of some sort.
The blacksmith guy?
Yeah, the blacksmith. He could be, essentially, and maybe that's why he trusts as the first person to know that the shield hero is innocent, because he's like, oh yeah, you're the hero that goes through this storyline. I got you.
I'm you, but in a different world.
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting.
But why would he be in a whole different world? I don't understand why their world is so fucked up that so they have to go to a different world and fuck up their world, kill their heroes off to save their world. Like,
That's the part that makes no sense.
Exactly.
Because they say during the fight that our world is simultaneously going through these waves of catastrophe right now, and we're not there to protect them.
yeah, and
Why are they not there to protect them?
they're not protecting themselves because, like, our heroes are the ones that are making their heroes less effective. That's what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
So I want an answer.
It'll be interesting if we find out an answer as to why the waves of catastrophe have even started happening.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the source?
Why are they even happening? Maybe there's gonna obviously, okay, then let's just go to some super cliche. There's gonna be some super god character that we're gonna have to kill at the end. That's the Japanese lore.
It kind of feels a lot like Darwin's game, like where that's going.
Oh yes,
Did anyone... You guys have seen Sword Art Online, right?
yeah.
Did you notice that the same enemy icon is the same between both series? Like, it's that little diamond that shows above their heads, and it has the same sound too, the brrrr kind of thing. And I was looking, I was like, this has to be made by the same people that make Sword Art Online, because there's no way they share that many of the same video game features, you know?
And I didn't pick up on anything like that.
I don't know. Did you look into that and see if they are or no?
I didn't. I would love to. I would love to look into that though, because I know there's a lot of animes where they share the same
Sound
company,
effects?
the same. They'll use like the same kind of themes in certain things.
Yep.
Like Fire Force and Soul Eater with having the same moon in the background. Like that makes sense. But like here, it was just little things like health bars and enemy NPC icons. They were the exact same between Sword Art Online and Rising the Shield Hero. So I was like, I wonder if some of the similar themes from Sword Art Online are going to be in here.
Yeah, we're gonna find out that this entire fucking series was just Sword Art Online 4 or something.
I will say, just to kind of go into the manga, that was not a part of the manga. Those health bars and stuff like that. That was not.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's such a disappointment.
So how did they explain that part?
They really don't.
So, because they say
It's
like
just-
there's like that magic dashboard or whatever, like so that's not in the manga at all.
The magic dashboard is in the help desk, as Naofumi calls it, is a part of the manga, but when it's like you get that little glimpse of the health when I'm trying to remember what episode exactly that was, but I think it was when he was fighting Glass, I think. You see it, and yeah, that's not there. That's just not
like that timeline. Like when he was originally fighting Glass, there was like a 1 minute timeline
not
left in the catastrophe.
not that part. It was
Okay.
when
You see it over their head.
Like the health bar?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see a health bar. I think it's like the first time she attacks Naofumi. You see it. And like you said, that might be just the same producer, the same animation group might have made both shows. So they just added it to help kind of push the fact that it feels video game esque.
I'm on board with that. But the manga doesn't show that.
No, the manga doesn't show that.
That's kind of sad.
Okay.
That totally like separates the concept that this is kind of like a video game feel versus
So
realistic.
I will say that the Cardinal Heroes do bring up the fact that it's like certain individual games from their own dimension is probably the best way to say it. Because if you guys remember,
Parallel
in the
universe.
yeah, so they're all from Japan, but
They have different
certain things are
variations.
different.
Yeah.
So they all have their parallel universes, which is an interesting concept that you have 4 people coming from the same location, but in 4 different universes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was interesting. One thing they do talk about that's not really important is that Naofumi talks that he's not really into video games in his timeline. So
He says he plays them, but he's more into, he says, typical otaku life.
yeah, he's more into the manga and anime versus the video game life, which is that's
He said he didn't do any of the VR MMOs. He's like, what are those? He was really confused by that whole concept. Whereas the other 3 heroes were like, oh yeah, we play games like these all the time. It's this. This is what game we're in. The other guy's like, no, we're not. We're in this game, of course.
Right.
Which-
And that's where they got their egos from.
which
Mhm.
they're all basically like, well, that's the exact same game, but in my my universe, it's, one fraction of a sliver difference, so it's completely different. It's like, well, are you sure it's not the exact same game, just a different title? No, it's different. It's got to be different because I said so.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Before we get too much further, I just wanted to say that our main character 100% reminds me of Black Clover's Yuno. Did you guys
Yep.
get that feeling?
Yeah, I can 100% see that vibe.
Yeah, I could not see Naofumi without seeing Yuno.
Do you think that's where the influence for his character came from then?
Oh, I don't
Do
know.
you, like...
No, I don't.
No, because I'm pretty sure this light novel came before Black Clover.
Okay, that's what I wasn't sure about. Which
That's
one came
also
first.
me saying off the fly. I can't say for sure. I don't know how far in advance the creators of Black
So-
Clover came.
I will say that Yuno has I don't really want to call it arrogance, but he has that self-worth that he knows how good of a individual he is versus Naofumi, who's like, he wants to screw over the nobles, but he doesn't want to screw over the other people, and he just kind of wants to do his own thing. Where Yuno's like, I know I am worthy of being who I am, and he kind of wants to stick it to the nobles while still being friendly with them.
Right. It's a fine line.
Yep.
One other thing I wanted to say before we get too much further is I am super surprised that we never came up with like nicknames for our main characters, like Naofumi. I'm surprised he never got nicknamed like Nao or Fumi, and Raftalia, she never got nicknamed Raf or Talia, like just for a short name. Like I guess I can give props to this anime, but like giving their proper names the entire time. So like I guess I'm on both sides of the fence. Like to me it's just a little bit different.
Yeah, I can see that. Just making life easier, especially for everybody else.
It is kind of odd that they didn't shorten, because you see that in a lot of other animes where they'll shorten the names down, and eventually you just kind of forget their real name because you just only go by their nickname.
Exactly.
And here, yeah, it was, now that I think about it, really formal. Everybody was, it's Matuyasu. And,
Yeah, because it could have easily been like Rafi.
yeah.
Anything along those lines.
Or Moto.
Raftalia!
Or-
Loved it.
Or Moto or something along those lines, just to make it faster and quicker.
Yep.
One thing I will say is that the queen actually calls them by their last names in the manga.
Oh,
So,
Does she?
yes, she uses the formal names when she is talking to
I don't
them.
even think I
the
know
formal
any of their last
names.
names.
Yes.
There's a handful of them.
Well, it's only the heroes that she does that for. So, like, Iwatani, and then,
Ren Imiki.
yep.
Ren Imiki.
And then,
Itsugi Kawasumi. So it would be, Kawasumi, which is I think that's a spear hero.
Kitamura.
Oh, sorry, that was the bow. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
that's
right.
the bow.
Sorry, now I'm seeing it. Yeah.
What?
Itsugi Kawasumi was the bow, so she would probably assume that that's Kawasumi.
And then the spear is Matayasu. Yasu Kitamura.
Kitamura?
Yep.
Yes.
So she would refer to him as Kitamura.
Which is kind of funny that 2 of them have K's and 2 of them have I's. Just
Well, I mean, it's pretty common for
yes, yeah.
those names.
And so the queen actually makes it even more formal by saying it by their last names, which is a respectful thing, I believe.
Yeah, it's just a Japanese respectful thing, is to refer to them by their
Surnames.
Only
surnames, yes.
friends can call each other by their first names.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
One thing I did want to talk about was the openings. Did you notice that the openings changed halfway through? So in episode 13, it had a separate opening. than
Yeah,
the first
I was
one.
going to say that too. I know I never watch them, but I did notice that when an opening scene started, that it was different from when it started. Not that I watched it, because, I never watch them. But I did make note that episode 13 did change its opening scene almost as if it would be good enough to start for like an actual season 2.
Yeah, which, I mean, episode 13 would technically, according to the new standard, be a new season.
Right.
Alec, what about you?
So I was actually a fan of these opening scenes. So I have it, whether I enjoy them or not, I always watch the opening scenes. The closing scenes, not so much. Maybe if it's a really cool song, then I'll watch it and listen along. I mostly watch the opening and ending credits for the song value, not so much what's visually on display.
Right.
But what I did like about these ones are it kind of shows you the characters, who they are now, a little bit of the strife that they're going through, and introducing some of the new characters. So once all of those characters have been introduced, that's when in episode 13 it switches and goes to the next round where it opens up with the underwater dragon hourglass. So the whole season you're wondering, what's with this underwater hourglass? Is that a metaphor? Is it supposed to mean something? It's always raining. Is someone gonna die? Like, you don't know.
Is that what the opening credit scene did? Like, it totally gave away the fact that there's an underwater.
There is, but there's no reference to it, so you have no idea what it's showing you, so you think it's a metaphor.
Okay, well, I mean, I think that this would only be on my favor why it gives away so much information. But I understand why some people might split at this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly why Lance and I don't watch the opening credits. I will say I, at the very minimum, will listen to it at least once just to see if I like the opening credits song or not. But I don't know if you guys noticed that the opening credits song will be played throughout the series.
Yes.
Yeah.
As a motif kind of thing.
Yeah.
But also and this is just me throwing in my psychology degree background in, you should always watch at least the opening credits when whichever show you're watching, whether it's anime or something else, because it puts your mind in the mind frame of, I'm doing this. I'm watching this show, and this is what I want to expect out of it. So when you skip it, you dive right into it. You're not giving your brain enough time to, get its bearings, sit down on the couch and get its popcorn ready. Like, it has to prepare for the show just like you do. So that's why I always like watching the opening credits, because it kind of lets my brain reset. What happened in last episode? What do I think is going to happen in this episode? And are there any characters in the introduction that I haven't been introduced yet, and I need to look out for them in case. So that's why I always watch the opening credits.
Yep, and I'm right there on the opposite end of the field, because I personally love being surprised, because I'm already invested. I have already given my heart and soul into this anime, so I'm already gonna want to know what happens next. So I'm expecting to just be shocked, and I want to know what happens next. And if I have a spoiler effect by the opening credits, then that's gonna spoil it for me. Like, if I know what's gonna happen, it's just like scary movies. Like, if I watch a scary movie, I already know that something scary is gonna happen. So when that scary thing happens, even though like I didn't watch the preview or anything, like I already know that the anticipation is building up to it, and I can already prepare myself. Like, okay, something scary is gonna happen. Relax, prepare for it. Okay, something scary happened. Yeah, that was a good scary moment. I can appreciate that. I don't know. Maybe I'm too jaded. Maybe.
I will say I watch this at 4 a.m. when I'm working out, so my brain does not want to have any popcorn ready, so it's just happy. Well, unfortunately, not happy that it's awake at that moment in time. So it's okay that I didn't watch the opening credits. And
so you just skip them. It's not even that you're walking around doing things and getting things ready while the show's starting. You just go straight into skip intro and get right into the show.
well, on my phone, it doesn't have a skip intro, so it's 8 clicks and then it's through the opening. But yeah.
Okay.
So I have that down as well.
Yep.
Just to show how much I've skipped through opening credits, that I know how many it takes.
But to be fair, when we got to the last, 2 or 3 episodes,
It
there
didn't-
was no legit opening credit scene. So it was pure action the entire time, which
Well-
I totally appreciated.
I will ask, Lance, did you skip all of the ending, or did you just kind of click through to make sure there wasn't anything at the end?
Uh-oh, I skipped all of it. Once the ending credit came and
You
that
went to the next
you saw
episode.
that once I saw that sailboat came, I'm like, done with the episode, let's go on next. Damn, did I miss shit?
Yes and no. You missed, I think there was, 3 episodes that had
Post-credit
something at
scenes?
the end. You skipped the end too, didn't
I
you?
always skip the end.
Oh, you missed the
Oh.
post-credit scenes too?
Oh, no, now I have to go rewatch the whole season.
I will say it's not a whole lot, but so what I always do is I always skip to the end, I always skip 8 to get,
Through
a
the
minute
credits.
and a half to get through. And then if it gives me that basically nothing at the end, I will go to the next episode. But I'm always looking to see if there is post-credit things, because there are a lot of shows that will give you, like a 10, 15 second
Introduction.
introduction and or continuation of the episode
Yep.
that will give you some sort of information. Not like Jujutsu, which, Alec, I don't know if you've watched Jujutsu yet. So not like Jujutsu, where it gives you that kind of like spoof episode thing where it gives you 30 seconds of something that's mildly entertaining.
Just for fun.
Yeah. Some series will actually give you something that's either A, important for the next episode, or B, kind of wraps up the episode that you just finished.
Fate Stay does stuff like that where it will go into the next episode, and if you didn't watch those end closing, you don't know what's happening at the beginning of the next episode. You're like, when did they discuss this? And
Yep.
you go and you go to the last episode like thinking, oh, I must have fallen asleep at the end. You're like, no, well, it wasn't there. And I would fast forward to the end. I would see it. I'm like, this has been mind blowing me this whole time. I thought they were just going into random sections and you just kind of had to fill in the gaps. So that happens in Shield Hero too?
Like I said, it only happens a couple times. Like, I think 3 or 4 times.
Great.
Nothing, I promise you, nothing super important. There's no vital information that you lost. But there was just some continuation stuff at the end of a couple episodes.
Good to know.
So now you guys both know. Don't just hit next before you get through the credits.
Okay. Well, from this moment here on forth, we will, at least I will, always keep in mind that there might be a potential post-credit scene.
Treat it like a Marvel movie.
Spend
Exactly.
10 seconds just to make sure.
Mm-hmm. I thought they were just like little, like introductions to the next episode kind of thing. Like, what you're gonna see next week kind of thing.
Yep. Not always. Before we continue, because there are a lot of characters in this series that you can kind of dislike, do you guys have a least favorite character?
Matsuyu. Oh no, mine. Or
Mine?
bitch. Bitch whore.
I was going to say, I mean, the one that comes to the top of the mind is definitely bitch/whore.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yep, I can see that. I did think the only reason why she's not my least favorite character is because she had the slave crest, so she had to deal with all the pain and suffering
For telling the truth.
for lying.
Yeah.
And then in the anime, she had to, well, in the manga as well, she had essentially had to beg Naofumi to spare her life.
Yep.
So I did not find her my least favorite character, only because she kind of got what's coming to her. Sort of. Kind of got what's coming
Like
to
she
her.
truly felt sorry for herself. Like she truly begged for herself in that kind of say.
Well, kind of. So, I mean, Naofumi brings it up where he's like,
She's not worth killing. Like she needs to suffer.
yep, this piece of crap individual is begging me the person that she
Screwed over.
to save her. So look at how despicable of a person she is.
Right.
So that's why I don't find her as intolerable as I've seen some individuals where they're like, she's the worst person ever. Is she a terrible person? Yes. But at least she kind of got to deal with some of the pain and suffering that she put Naofumi through.
I still don't trust
So
her.
who would be your least favorite then?
Honestly, Motoyasu is my
Okay.
least favorite.
Yeah.
Spear?
Yeah.
Yeah,
because
he'd probably be next
Comes
line.
my close second.
He's so influenced.
he gets absolutely nothing as far as redeeming qualities when it comes to him. Like he never has anything bad happen to him. He
Thrives on cheating.
he always blames Naofumi for essentially all of his problems. He like anytime anything bad happens, he's like, well, that's not my problem. It's somebody else's problem. Like he never has to deal with anything. It's like, well, all right, well, glad to see you're a complete jackass and you just blame other people for your own problems. I will say in the manga, there's one funny thing, and that's he dies by a jealous girl.
Dies?
Yeah, he dies. He dies in his world. In his world, he gets essentially reincarnated and brought to, and gets isekai'd into the world that he's in now.
Interesting.
Oh,
So
that's
he gets killed by a jealous girl.
Okay, so I have a question to pose here. So you know how at the beginning, he's reading that book and he's like, "Oh, this queen character is something," and he's like he kind of like paraphrases each hero going in.
Yep.
Do you think if he had taken the time to read those sections to actually know who these characters he was going to be essentially playing and living with, that he would have had a better time starting off already knowing their personalities? Because he kind of just skipped to the shield hero. He's like, "Oh, there's no pages written," and that's when he gets summoned in. If he had taken the time to actually learn who those characters were going to be, do you think he would have had a better starting point?
Dude, yeah.
Yeah?
Holy shit. I mean, I didn't go back and rethink about that, but it makes sense. He did skip ahead. He found the general aspects of every hero and the queen, now that I think about it. Yeah.
They look just like them, too.
Yeah, and he skipped ahead. And yeah, why not? I can see that. What do you, Matt?
I will say no, only for the fact that he was willing to try, and he's still technically willing to try to be cordial with them, but they want absolutely nothing to do with him. So when they have that, I want to say the first real meeting with the queen, and they're talking about, it's like, hey, how did you become as powerful as you are? And he's like, you guys wouldn't believe me even if I told you what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Or how I did. And then he tells him, he's like, you actually have to put in effort. And they're like, no, what did you do? How did you cheat to become? It's like, so he knows their personalities. They just don't give a shit to listen to what Naofumi has to say. So,
Yeah, 'cause they want the shortcut.
you guys deal with these people in real life. It's like, you know exactly what the answer to the question that they're giving you is, and you know that they don't want to listen to it. So you're just like, yeah, it's whatever. Like when somebody asks you to help or says that they'll do something for you, you know they won't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly how these three heroes are. It's like, I could give you every single answer, but it's not the answer you want, so it doesn't matter.
Yep, I can
Yeah.
agree to that.
And that's exactly how it would have been, because the book wouldn't have told him about mine and the issues he would have had to deal with, so it wouldn't have done anything.
But doesn't it show a part where he's talking, or he's like looking, he's like, "Oh, this princess," he talks about how the princess is a bad character, and that princess turns out to be mine.
He didn't know mine was the princess at the time, so it wouldn't have helped him, because it didn't say it wouldn't have said her name, it just would have said princess. So
Gotcha.
that wouldn't have done him any favors anyway. He might have clicked who she was sooner, but he still would have been screwed over in the end anyway.
Yeah, because he was screwed over from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, the world he was brought into was anti-shield hero to begin with.
Yeah.
Yep. So he had a 0% chance of succeeding no matter what.
Oh, okay. So before we go any further, because he had zero chance of succeeding was because they assumed that he was the devil of the shield.
Yep.
So do you think that his ancestor, who was a previous shield owner, or even the one before him, it could have been any ancestor, do you think they accepted this so-called devil in order to stop the final catastrophe of that timeline, to protect the world? And because he accepted this devil, it just got, inherited throughout the rest of the shields. Like, yes, he had to do something horrible to protect everybody, and it made him look like a bad guy, but he
Like you're saying,
was a
like
good guy.
like whoever was Shield before, like fully gave in to the curse Shield
Yeah.
per se.
Yeah.
And everyone just got so afraid of them that they just ostracized them.
Right, like he got so powerful
Yeah.
and consumed and somehow died and became this icon of an enemy, even though he saved the world, and he got consumed by this demon and he eventually died. Whatever. I'm just saying, like, I just think that somewhere along those lines of inheritance, that's all I can really say.
I could see that. I mean, that would be a reason why everyone would hate him.
Originally.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So they do talk about how the king had prejudice towards the shield hero for unknown reasons. So I could see a previous shield hero doing something that would cause them to dislike the shield hero, but it could have literally been something like, hey, I think that demi-humans are on equal playing field as humans.
Mm.
Like, it might not have been anything that the shield hero really did wrong or evil, like given into the cursed shield. It could have literally just been something that the previous kings didn't approve of, and was he could have been like, well, I don't believe in slaves. I don't think you should have slaves. And then he gets ostracized because he doesn't want slaves.
Yeah, that too. I mean, like, not to go too much further, but like, we talked about how everybody has the same access to every single ability. Like, what if the sword, bow, and spear also have access to the cursed ability?
Yep.
So there's always that option too.
Yep. So I think that's all the questions I have. Lance, Alec, you guys have any more questions?
Not that I think of. I think we covered everything about this show.
Pretty close. Lance looks like he has.
How did we all enjoy the obligatory anime beach scene?
Oh, yeah, of course, every anime has to have their beach scene.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely introduced. I can say on defense of this anime, it was relatively short. So
Yeah.
I can give them that much.
It was very short, and I will say it was not in the manga. There are some anime beach scenes that do happen in the manga as well.
Oh, there's separate ones?
Yeah, sometimes they're separate, sometimes they're in both. I'm just like, all right, well, I guess that's a thing.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least on our side of the anime world, it wasn't like some super revealing, super boobage kind of deal. Like, everything was proper. You can show this to a younger crowd kind of deal.
It wasn't a High School of the Dead OVA kind of.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
not that bad.
Yeah, it was tame.
Yes, it was very tame. It was fine. Basically, it was him Naofumi giving Raphtalia a compliment, and then Philo's like, "Hey, look, I found something." All right.
It really is. Oh, hey, you look good. Oh, you might want to wear this giant penguin Santa suit, by the way.
Which
That
was
was great.
very strange. But, I mean, if we're gonna talk about that beach scene, they said they traveled 10 minutes underwater and they were still breathing regular air.
Yep.
Was that because of the suit, the
Yeah.
penguin suit?
Yes. Yeah, that's why they wore the penguin suits, so that they could breathe underwater.
Okay, that's very strange. I mean, okay.
There was
they
no
would.
explanation of it.
I
but
wish they
yeah.
would have said that very specifically, because they just randomly got in this penguin suit, like, oh, we've been traveling under here for 10 minutes. I can still breathe normal air.
So,
Sure, why not?
in the manga Naofumi said that he's like, man, this suit's great. It's been 10 minutes and I can breathe underwater still. And then once they get to the door, he says that we really need to hurry up because I'm starting to feel like I'm can't breathe underwater anymore. So it's
Like, what happens if it expires while they're still underwater? They're just out of air.
then they die.
Oh,
So
Yeah,
good old Harry Potter reference. You could just say that the gillyweed goes away.
The gillyweed goes.
sure.
It's okay, Lance. We know you're not that big into Harry Potter.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
okay.
I've seen a couple movies. That's about it.
It's in the fourth one. It's okay.
Oh, okay. As for the show, I don't know if you guys want to talk about the Pope scene.
That was an awesome, I guess, it wasn't even really a boss fight, but it was incredibly difficult for them, and he just had way overpowered weapons. And, I mean, it's like your typical, like, Dark Souls video game. Oh my gosh, I'm going against a guy that's way more stronger than me, has way better weapons. How do I beat him? Well, I'm gonna have to do something that gets me between 1 HP, and that's his blood sacrifice.
Yep.
And I thought that was a pretty badass move. I didn't really consider it much of a shield move, but it was pretty badass.
Yeah, it was very strange.
It was interesting to see because that was the first offensive attack that we got to see, and then the airstrike shield later on you got to see him use as a pseudo-offensive attack. I'm curious to see if there's any more shields that he can start using as a pseudo-offensive technique kind of stuff. I wonder if he'll be able to get some of that stuff later on in the series.
Yeah, like a bouncy shield where he puts up 2 shields and they just bounce the guy between 2 shields and just infinitely like attacks.
He absorbed all those bubble balloons at the very beginning, and we haven't seen their use, so maybe that could be it. Maybe.
But yeah, back to the Pope. I wrote down that this guy is a fake god. He was just sitting there absorbing all of his followers' effects. Like, I just assumed that this guy created a fake cult in order to absorb all of his followers' mana to power up his fake ass.
The replica
weapon that replicates every weapon, and he gave the power to God, but I think God was just a false thing so that everyone else could believe that they were given their...
He does talk about how he is God towards the end.
Right.
So I think it was originally one of those things where he started off good and then he got corrupted by power.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because all he was concerned about was as long as his weapon gained enough power to do what he wanted to do, that's all that mattered.
Yep, exactly.
Well, he was also very manipulative as a person. I mean, when Naofumi goes there to get the holy water, and everyone there just absolutely hates the shield hero. He doesn't even know why at this point, but he gets kind of a feeling. He's like, they only have the shield or the sword, bow, and spear.
The 3 church.
The 3 church. And they don't have the shield. These people must be really against me. He goes in, he asks for holy water, and the Pope's like, oh yeah, of course, bring him some holy water. And then they bring it out as that crude holy water stuff with like 0 effect. He's like, well, what the hell is this crap? And even the Pope turns to his followers like, if this is part of your own individual beliefs, then you're gonna have to repent. And she looks at him like really confused. And I'm like, oh, he's definitely manipulating her right now to look good in front of Shield Hero, to kind of pull the sweater over his eyes, the hood over his eyes kind of thing.
Yep.
Like, oh, I'm a good guy. I'm completely unbiased, when really he's not.
Right.
Yep, exactly. I agree.
Yeah, so things could be said. Other than that, I think I'm pretty good on as far as the anime is concerned.
Mm-hmm. It was solid. Like, definitely liked it.
Let's get into some Matt's manga mentions.
NANI?!
Okay, so just to kind of go over the manga differences for this one, I will say, especially in the beginning, they do a great job sticking true to the anime. The one thing that's kind of crazy, so they managed to get through 25/26 episodes, because the first episode is essentially a double episode.
Right.
In 45 chapters, which, I mean, Lance, we've done quite a few episodes of this at this point. You can get 12 episode anime where it's 40 some chapters.
Right.
So now we're at 25/26 episodes and we have 45 chapters. So it was...
Shit, for real?
Yep. So they
mid 40 chapters
for a 25 episode.
Condensed into, well, damn, good job.
Yeah, so they did a really good job. One thing that's kind of big is the anime likes to stretch out timelines as compared to what the manga does. So to give an example, in the first episode, they drag that out to 2 days. In the manga, everything essentially happens in succession with itself. So in the anime, they get summoned, they talk to him, and then the 4 heroes have that conversation in that nice place, and they're talking about how, these are all the differences between this world world and the world I'm from, and they find out about the multi-universe things. Well, in the manga, that literally happens. Like, they're talking about the differences between this world and their world as they're all talking to the king initially. So, there's no long, dragged out period. It's literally right then in the beginning.
Okay.
So then the king brings forth all these adventurers that want to be a part of the different heroes group. So then the hero, I don't know if you guys remember, but the king makes some sort of excuse about how, they must be concerned that the hero or the shield hero doesn't really know what's going on, so they don't want to be with him. The king doesn't make that excuse. He's like, oh, well, I guess nobody wants to be in your group. He doesn't give any excuses on why nobody wants to be with the shield. He just says, well, that sucks for you.
Okay.
So then you remember when Naofumi starts giving Raftalia medicine when she's young to help her with her illness. The manga makes it a little more comical where she acts more like her age, where she spits out that medicine because it's all bitter, instead of in the anime where she's just like, oh, this is gross, it's bitter.
I think she does make a comment that it is bitter.
Yep.
But I think she still takes it regardless.
Yeah, so in the manga, she just makes this funny face and spits it, like she just lets it drool out of her mouth and makes this face.
Yeah.
Because it's bitter and it's gross. And so it's just it was one of those things where it was funny because it made it more like Raftalia being a child versus in the anime where she's just complaining about it. Which, I don't know, Alec, I know you have a son. Does he take medicine or does he hate taking medicine?
It really depends. There
Okay.
are some times where he absolutely loves it, and there are times, and it could be the same one, and he'll just literally and just all goes down his whole front, and you're just like, what happened this time?
Yep, and that's exactly what she did, was that moment right there where it's just like, all right, well, I guess you're just not taking this. And that's what she did when he gave her the medicine. When Naofumi fights Motoyasu, and then they're talking about money that's going to get separated to all the individual heroes, mine after the fight talks about how Naofumi is going to get less money because they need to deduct the price for removal of the slave crest. So it's just one of those things where they just elongating the timeline versus in the manga where they shorten everything, where it's immediately after the duel between Naofumi and Matayasu is when this conversation's happening, not later on in the day or the next day, which is kind of how they make it seem in the anime. So after that is when Naofumi and Raftalia are having their conversation on the balcony, and she makes Naofumi a sandwich, and he finally has delicious food in the country for the first time.
Ooh, I wanted to make a quick comment. I made a star because it was like in the beginning of the episode, episode like 3, 4 or something like that. He's like, Naofumi makes a reference like, I can no longer taste food.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made a star. I'm like, did Naofumi get the coronavirus? But that's
Yeah.
a side note.
He got that world's coronavirus, but just for him.
Yeah.
So, one thing that Naofumi does that's different in the manga is he actually shows his affection towards Raftalia and gives her a kiss on the cheek.
Does he?
Yes.
Okay.
So after that, so it's one of those things where you can infer that, because this is the first time that he actually sees her as an adult, is like right before all these things happen. So he starts actually somewhat showing some affection towards Raftalia, and you can almost infer that the feelings are mutual, but Naofumi just doesn't know how to properly express his feelings towards Raftalia.
Okay.
At that point, the grimoire that the medicine shop owner gives Naofumi is a grimoire for medium level medicine, just something that's kind of important. So it's not novice level, and it's not some super high class level. It's just some intermediate level medicine knowledge, which I found kind of important because that gives you a rough idea of the ability level that Naofumi has at this point. Also, you find out that Naofumi starts learning the language of the land through Raftalia. So Raftalia can read and write and do all these things, and she is the one that teaches Naofumi how to read and write.
Right, and they kind of skipped over all that when Naofumi ran into that like tombstone thing at the near the end of the series when he went after he learned of Lark and gave that kind of spiritual thing from that tomb to Raftalia. Like he just so happened that's to me that's the first time I learned that there was a separate language.
So they do talk about it in the beginning I know for a fact they talk about it when Raftalia and Naofumi and Lark and his group are speaking, and Raftalia is like, oh, you must be from a different country, because she didn't know what they were saying. And then that's the first glimpse in which you're like, oh man, I wonder if they have
Different
some
speaking languages.
Well, not speaking languages, but you see the ability, you see Lark giving the ability away to be able to speak different languages, which is the same thing that the other heroes have, is that they can understand their language right away,
right?
Because of their hero ability. So the second time through when I saw that, I was like, oh man, I wonder, well, I knew that they were already from a different world and they were other heroes, but I was like, oh man, that's a dead giveaway that they're probably heroes from another world, is seeing that little glimpse of her taking the ability away from his scythe to be able to speak a different language. So if you guys watch that episode again, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's right.
I remember that one specifically because he took this like orb away and gave it to the girl with the bracelet.
Yep.
But isn't that girl with the bracelet also one of the heroes, or is
they don't specifically say that she's a hero?
Okay, because now that you say that, now I'm going to think that she's not one of the heroes because she wasn't able to automatically understand language.
I mean, maybe she might have just been a party member of Lark.
Like Raftalia is too.
Like Raftalia is, yep.
Yeah, so I'm going to... No, just because of that by itself, because they had to transfer a skill, I don't think she's part of one of the heroes. So I think the heroes from the other world are going to be Lark and Glass, not the girl with that special bracelet.
Yep.
Okay, so I think with that statement alone, I can already subtract her from one of the potential four.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Me too. Now that you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. So if anybody who doesn't remember that moment, I think it's like episode 23 or something like that.
Somewhere around there.
When he first meets Lark and all them.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
So, and then the race between Motoyasu and Naofumi for the village, how it ends is Motoyasu actually falls into the hole that is meant for Naofumi and Philo to fall into so that Motoyasu could win the race. So in the anime, Naofumi barely beats Motoyasu because he like skips over the pit.
Yeah,
he flies over.
Yep, he uses his shield to fly over the pit, and in the manga he uses the shield to fly over the pit, but then Motoyasu falls into the pit because it's so big.
Oh,
a little more
hilarious.
comical. Yeah, it's definitely more comical. Then Naofumi's reward for winning was the traveling merchant's coin, and then it was also the wagon. So I don't know if they go into the anime on how he gets the wagon, but that was his second reward for winning that race. I think the village just gave it to him because they liked him. I think that's how they framed it. I don't remember.
I guess I'm kind of blank on how they came across the carriage in itself. Like, yeah.
He said that I don't want your money. Is there something else you can pay me with? And they just all looked at the wagon.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it worked in the manga. If I remember that's basically how it works. It was probably one of those things where they just kind of gave it to him, like, here, we're going to give you this, and we're going to give you the merchant's coin. And then the night in the anime where Philo transforms into the human is a little different. She transforms into the large bird form. Naofumi brings her to the slave merchant to study her, and that is where she transforms, not Naofumi sleeping with Philo in the bird form. she's in the bird form at the slave merchant where he's studying her, and as Naofumi is walking away, she transforms into the human form of Philo. So just, slightly different. One thing I found funny, when Naofumi brings Philo and Raftalia to the blacksmith for the first time for Philo, and the blacksmith gives Philo food. In the anime, it's a sandwich, and in the manga, it's actually ramen. Just some good old censoring going on right there. Just making it more westernized. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Western, good way, yeah.
When Naofumi saves the town from the killer tree that Motoyasu very stupidly planted.
The cursed seed.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He actually kills the tree without anybody knowing about it.
Naofumi?
Yeah, Naofumi and his group kill the tree and give the town the seed, leave the seeds without anybody knowing about it. So in the manga, in the anime, basically half the town knows that Naofumi is saving them, and in the manga, because at this point he's still technically the devil of the shields, according to most everybody else.
Yep.
He tries to not be seen as much as he can.
Okay.
So he saves the town without anybody knowing. All the town knows is that an adventurer accepted the request to kill the tree. And then, I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but especially in the beginning, Naofumi transforms his shield into a book.
Yep, they make multiple references. They don't really explain it, but you see it multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the reason why he does that is to get people to not think of him as the shield hero.
Okay.
So he doesn't want prejudice upon him before they meet him.
I kind of, they never come out and say it, but I kind of made that assumption. I was like, he's got a book on his arm now. I was like, is he doing that to appear normal?
Yep, and that's exactly what it was. So they never explain it, but you can infer it. You find out that the shield hero kills the dragon, all because of item drops. So another reason why to not like the shield hero, or excuse me, the sword hero, because he's kind of an ass, only thinking about himself. Sorry to ruin your love of Ren.
I love them. I love them sword heroes. He reminded me a lot of Kirito from Sword Art Online, so I was like, gotta do it.
Let's see. Philo, during the fight with the dragon, gets eaten because the slave crest basically freezes her because Naofumi is telling Philo to come back to him. So in the anime, they just kind of make it seem like the dragon gets the upper hand on Philo, and that's how he eats her, or it eats her.
Mm-hmm.
And in the manga, it's because the slave crest essentially makes her unable to move.
Okay.
Which is also one of the reasons why Naofumi feels so terribly, because it's essentially his fault that she gets eaten.
Makes sense.
Also, Philo is only 1 month old at that point.
Yeah, she's definitely not old. She's under a year.
She's 1 month.
Crazy.
Then when they all meet Melty for the first time, it is when Raftalia is still recovering from the curse, and they are doing a perimeter check, and that's when they run into Melty for the first time, talking with all the Filolials.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where I kind of missed the timeline type of thing on what was going on. I thought they were walking back to the castle to get some of the proper holy water, but that's not the case. Raftalia was still recovering, so this was before they had the intention of walking back. They were just checking the perimeter of that town. Let's see. After the second wave, when Naofumi is walking down those stairs, you know how he meets one of the shadow individuals?
Mm-hmm.
So in the manga, that shadow individual is dressed up as the queen, not as just some random individual. And he's kind of like, isn't she somebody? And then she's gone. When they go back to that...
Well, is that the same shadow that always says, I dare say?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That same one?
Yeah, so it's the one that's dressed up as like a nun or whatever it was. Yeah, so she's not dressed up as a nun, she's dressed up as the queen.
Okay.
She's imitating the queen. She's supposed to be the body double of the queen.
Okay, but it is that one that
it's the same person. When they go into the dungeon dungeon where that one evil lord was holding all the slaves, where Raftalia was.
Mhm.
Raftalia already knew that Lifana was dead. So the whole dramatic crying thing, because she found out Lifana was dead. So if you pay attention, it's Raftalia already knew that she was dead because she died when she was a kid, still imprisoned. Like, if you're really paying attention to the timeline. So it really makes no sense. Like, that whole part where she gets all emotional really makes no sense.
The last thing that I can remember is she gave her that fake ass flag, and I guess if you're gonna say in that tense, like after she gave her that flag, that flag on a toothpick deal,
Yep.
she just like accepted that and died.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's basically what happened in the manga, is that Lifana and Raftalia were talking, Lifana dies, and then that's when Raftalia never smiles again. Like, that's basically the straw that broke the camel's back, if you want to call it.
Sure.
So in the anime, she goes through this whole like, oh my god, I can't believe she's dead, and this whole crying scene. It really makes no sense because she already knew she was dead. And even in the anime, she knew she was dead. So I'm not sure why seeing her bones made her cry. In the manga, she doesn't cry. She's just like, I need to take her with me and bury her, kind of thing.
Okay.
In the fight with the Pope, they have a bunch of knights for the kingdom that the Pope brings to help fight the heroes. So they're the two heroes, the shield hero and the spear hero. Instead of just having all those magical users, he actually has knights with him to fight and help him kill those two individuals. Also, the cathedral scene, that doesn't happen.
So he doesn't have some super ass.
No.
What do they call it in Jujutsu Kaisen, where they're at their special time warp?
It's a domain expansion.
He never had that special domain expansion cathedral.
No, he doesn't have that. That's super offensive defensive thing. No, that's not a thing. No.
Never. Okay, so cathedral never happened in the manga.
Nope, cathedral does not happen.
Interesting.
It's kind of dramatic, but it's one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I'll get over it. I don't care. Because if you only read the manga or read the manga first and then saw it, you're just like, all right. So I didn't really care because in all actuality, if you think about it, the cathedral did.
Yeah, really.
I was just thinking about like, what did it actually do other than keep anyone else from going into the fight?
Yes. So the cathedral did 0.
Who else was going to join in?
It did some like reflective damage that I'm pretty sure like the mirror stuff did actually nothing. It was all just a trick.
Yeah.
Is that how that really worked out?
That mirror like super attack thing that he does, that doesn't hurt anybody. So if you think about it, the cathedral does 0 things.
This is literally just a front.
Yes. And
religion.
So when you think about it, you're just like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's what that is. So going into the cross-examination, which isn't really a cross-examination, the interrogation of Mine and the king, during that is when Mine admits to lying about everything that happened between her and Naofumi. So,
without getting shocked?
No, she 100% gets shocked.
Okay.
But everything happens at that moment. It's not... So it's, again, one of those things where they elongate things. So in the anime... They go from the interrogation, and then the queen's like, all right, well, now they have to die and get stripped of all their rights, which is really weird. It's like, well, you're sentencing them to death, and you're going to strip away their titles? Well, they're already dead, so they have no titles. So in the manga, the queen strips away the titles, and then asks Naofumi what their punishment should be. And Naofumi says that they should be executed because they don't deserve to live. And essentially, the queen does some sly things and convinces Naofumi that death is too good for them, and that is when they should be called bitch and trash.
Okay.
So the whole...
So it's a little bit backwards from what the anime did.
Yeah, they made it more dramatic in the anime.
Yeah, well, because in the anime they made it seem like the whole thing was Naofumi's idea, even though the queen was planning on sacrificing herself.
Yep. So in the manga, the queen basically was like, well, death is too good for them. We can torture them by like flaying parts of their skin and making them wish they would die and like ripping off their limbs and doing other things. And he's like, no, instead I think they should be called bitch and trash. Because even in the manga, he makes a reference how she essentially tricked him into not wanting them to die or not killing them. Also, during that banquet, so the interrogation happens in the afternoon, and that evening is when the banquet happens. So again, it's one of those things where they elongated the timeline where it was like the interrogation happens, and then the next day, the fake execution happens, and then it's either like the next day or later that day is when the banquet happens. Is it like all these added timeline pieces don't happen?
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure in the anime, like, Naofumi left for a couple days and
Yeah.
came back because he was summoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's literally the
Sequential.
interrogation. All right, now we're going to have a banquet. And that is when the queen announces to the entire kingdom of the punishments and informs her subjects of the kingdom of that the name changes and them being stripped of their titles. As I had mentioned earlier, when Naofumi fights Glass the second time, he has this idea of what Glass is, and he finds out that she is a spirit. So she is not even a living human being. So that is why the spirit shield affects her.
The Soul Eater shield.
The Soul Eater shield affects her so bad.
Do you think that's because she came to a different dimension? Like their dimension?
I think she's kind of like a Kikyo-esque from Inuyasha, where she uses souls to help, or uses SP/souls to help keep her
Yeah,
alive.
good point, because it's not like the Soul Eater shield did any effect on Lark.
Yep, exactly.
In fact, it did pretty much the opposite on Lark.
He said he's like that hurt, but he's like didn't really do much damage. I just mostly feel numb.
Mhm.
Basically, it stripped him of any like magical attacks. So
Yeah.
he couldn't use that super whirlwind attack that killed the Norwal looking thing, and all he could use were basically physical moves.
Like that snake.
Yes.
I think he used a snake on him. Like that counter attack.
I don't remember.
Oh, that's something of someone. Go on.
I mean, Naofumi used a snake attack on Lark.
Yeah.
Was that what,
But
okay,
then-
that's what I was thinking.
Lark, yeah, he used that double scythe windmill thing.
Yeah, and he couldn't do that because he didn't have any SP. Glass doesn't give that speech about being from another world and having to fight them in order to survive. The only thing that happens is after Naofumi initially sucks some of the SP/life energy from Glass, you get a close-up of her face and she's just crying in desperation. And that's when Raphtalia is like, hey, there's something weird going on. Like, this doesn't feel right. There's something off about this whole situation. And that's the only information you get about things being weird about the whole fight between Naofumi, Glass, and all them.
Okay.
They find out about all those things through Fitoria. So Fitoria is the one that gives them the information like, hey, Lark is must be using a hero's weapon from another world.
So Lark isn't necessarily from another world. He's got another worldly weapon.
No, he's from another world.
Okay. I guess that kind of.
So then after the wave, the queen and the heroes have a meeting on what needs to happen next. And essentially she decides that they need to go through combat training, and that's the only way that they can really get stronger. Because at this point, leveling up has done absolutely nothing, because this is the third wave, and this is the third wave that they've been absolutely useless and done nothing.
Pretty much.
So
It's been basically a stalemate every time.
as far as the other three heroes are concerned,
Oh, the other three? Yeah.
the
they've
other
been-
three heroes have done absolutely nothing
Yeah, they're
for
shit.
anything, and they're completely useless.
Exactly, yeah.
So she's like, if you guys want to get stronger and actually be in competition with Naofumi, you guys need to do combat training because you guys are not strong enough.
Okay. Well, I can see that line being said in season 2 for it, at least.
So then after that conversation, basically the last episode does not happen in the manga. At least up to this point that I've read so far in the manga. That does not happen. So the whole him coming to back and then becoming the lord of...
Raphtalia's original village.
Yeah, that has not happened.
Seton or something.
Yeah.
Sayet.
So yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that has not happened yet. So I've watched the first episode of season 2. Basically, there's
Is season 2 out already?
season 2 is out.
It started.
Yep.
Oh shit. Just to remind our viewers, we are at the end of April, so I guess season 2 of The Shield Hero has just started.
So there's some things that have been skipped as far as the manga and the anime are concerned, and that's literally all I'm gonna say as far as giving a teaser for season 2, is that there's gonna be some differences. Even in the beginning of the first episode of season 1 for season 2, there are some differences. So keep an eye out for our next episode of us talking about the Shield Hero when that finally gets completely dubbed for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna talk another 20-some episodes, it might take a minute, but we'll definitely cover it.
It's gonna be 12 episodes. They've announced 12 episodes.
12? Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard a rumor that there's even a third series, or a third season, so that there's plenty of information to come, supposedly.
Yep. And so that's all I have. That's a handful of differences. Nothing too crazy. A lot of timeline lengthening as far as the anime is concerned, but all in all, I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of huge differences between the anime and the manga. So that's another episode of the Anime Lounge podcast. Thank you all for listening, and please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our episodes.